and welcome back to Lisa Loves. I'm trying to get myself to one side because I know I'm going to be putting my movies down. I just recorded my true crime story for today, and then I went to pack away my ring light and everything, and then realised I hadn't done my what I watched video, so I'm doing it with no lighting. I've got a window in front of me, so I'm hoping I'm still light enough to see. So let's, without further ado, get on to what I watched the past week. So we'll kick it off with, now you'll notice that 12 Hour Shift does not have any rating on there. That's because I watched half of it, was knackered and fell asleep, so much like one I watched a few weeks ago. A review will come for this one. This is one about a hospital that is dealing in stolen organs. I don't know the ins and outs of everything about it because I haven't watched it all yet. My friend Chris from the Strange Monkey channel really likes this one. I, to be honest, at this stage haven't been that keen, but I will go back and I will come and let you know what I think when I finish it. On the 10th I watched, I don't need to talk about this, Crime Scene, The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel. I've done a separate video if you want to watch it. Well worth a watch if you're into your true crime. There wasn't really anything new in that I didn't know, apart from the fact that the Black Dahlia stayed there and Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, stayed there after having actually murdered people. So that was a bit, and there was an Austrian serial killer also, and his name escapes me at the moment, but it's a scary place. But yeah, Vanishing at Cecil Hotel is well worth a watch if you're into that kind of thing. So on the 11th, the next day, I really like this, News of the World. So this will not be everyone's cup of tea. If you watched my top 10 actors video, you will realise Tom Hanks is one of my favourite actors. He doesn't make bad films, as simple as that. Everything he does is good. This is a movie, he is a gentleman, now does it say what he is? A Texan travelling across the Wild West, bringing the news of the world to local townspeople, agrees to help rescue a young girl who was kidnapped. Now, I think he is a veteran, I think he fought in the American Civil War. He basically, at this time a lot of people can't read, so he goes into different villages and he just quite simply reads the news to the whole village, and they contribute a little bit into a bucket he carries. And this young girl comes to his attention that was kidnapped by Native Americans. Her parents, I believe, were German. I'm not exactly sure, but she speaks some German, that's why. So anyway, she was stolen, her parents were murdered, but then she was orphaned again when something happened to them. She had nowhere to go, and Tom Hanks's character in this movie is bringing her to aunts, which is an aunt and uncle, which is the only living relative she actually has. She's not your average little girl. She's got real issues. She eats with her hands, really like an animal, really sloppily. She can't speak English. She can't really speak German, tiny little words here and there, but she speaks that native language and she can sing songs in it. And this little girl's been through so much, she just does not trust other people. And this is a really heartwarming story about Tom Hanks and her relationship and that journey to bring her to her only surviving relative's home. I give that a 4 out of 5. It won't be everyone's cup of tea. It is slow in places, but I personally loved it. And if you're just a fan of a good story, as an example, I really enjoyed The Dig, but I know a lot of people found that quite dull. If you find that sort of thing, a good story with not a lot of action, although there is some action in this, I have to admit, some ingenious decision making from the little girl in this, I won't tell you. All I'll say is, who knew the Nichols could be that adaptive? So News of the World, big thumbs up from me. The same evening I watched a movie called The Rental, and this is on Shudder. Sorry, I should be saying where I'm watching these. News of the World's on Netflix at the moment, Cecil Hotel's on Netflix. This one, The Rental, is on Amazon Prime. This is one about two couples that go away to a really nice chalet sort of lodge in the middle of nowhere for a little vacation, and stuff starts to happen. I can't say too much without giving the story away. It's nothing new, it's nothing you haven't seen before, it's nothing original. The acting's not too bad, the setting's very nice. I just couldn't warm to any of the characters, so I really didn't care what happened to any of them. I think this one is, I give it a 2.5. I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, I would say it was okay. I would say watch it. I've seen an awful lot worse, but I would say it was very stereotypical. You knew what was going to happen next. and there were no surprises. It wasn't very fresh. The next night on the 12th, I watched Red Dot, and I've seen quite a few people review this one. I am one of the people that enjoyed this one. This is a story about, are we set in Sweden? This is obviously in Swedish subtitles. On a hiking trip to rekindle their marriage, a couple find themselves fleeing for their lives in the unforgiving wilderness from an unknown shooter. So obviously the red dot is the sight from the rifle. They have a run-in with some, I'll use the word that Carl from Carlini09 used, some hicks, some country hicks. They have a little bit of a run-in, and things progress, shall we say, from that. This couple end up in a fight for their lives. It maybe doesn't go where we think it's going to. There is a bit of backstory to this. It is quite interesting, and the ending left me satisfied. I liked where it went. It had to go where it went. I would recommend. I thought it was well worth a watch. That's Red Dot. The same evening. Oh, this was awful. Right, Digging Up the Marrow. A lot of horror fans will probably really like this. It's directed by Adam Green. Obviously, now there's some of my friends there have said want to watch. There's 3.5s, there's 4s. Let me just read you what it says. A documentary filmmaker turns his lens on an enigmatic conspiracy theorist who claims he's found the entrance to a vast underground city populated entirely by monsters. Now, I will say, Ray Wise that's in this, his acting is absolutely fantastic. There are loads of people from like the horror scene, like directors in this, playing themselves. This is done like not found footage, but it's done like a documentary style, where this guy approaches Adam Green and he said he has found proof that real life monsters actually exist. Like kids that are born deformed with real severe deformities, there's somewhere they go and they're kept away from the rest of us. He calls this place the Marrow. It's underground. And Adam Green and his camera crew are trying to catch something on camera, but this guy that has found these creatures is very much doesn't want them putting lights, doing this, doing that, interfering. And he almost, having had asked for their help, he is almost hindering their search. Now, I found this a really interesting premise. I loved the idea. I felt the execution was terrible. I thought the last 5 minutes were fantastic. I loved where this ended up. And as I say, the acting by, let me get his name again, sorry, Ray Wise is amazing. Really, really good actor, this guy. But it was a traipse to get there. So Digging Up the Marrow, obviously the Marrow is the underground where these creatures are meant to live, and they're trying to get to the bottom of that. So it wasn't awful, but it wasn't good until we got to the end, and then it ended well. I gave that a 2 out of 5. Excuse me, and it's not coronavirus. Right, so last night I watched Willy's Wonderland with the amazing Nicolas Cage. As you can see, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. This movie will be very divisive. A lot of people are going to hate this movie. I will be honest, if it didn't have Nicolas Cage in, I probably wouldn't be a big fan. But as also stated by, I think it was Leo from Geek Legion of Doom, he said, I think it's trying too hard to be a modern cult movie, and I agree. While I really enjoyed it, and I got a lot of fun out of it, and I laughed my arse off at it, and Isaac would love this if it wasn't for a couple of scenes which are just a bit much. But Nicolas Cage kicking the crap out of animatronics just is a delight, is a visual feast for the eyes. It has to be seen. I'm sure everyone knows what this is. Nicolas Cage is like a drifter. His car is damaged. He's passing an area that has we don't have Chuck E. Cheese in the UK or Ireland, so it's like a Chuck E. Cheese type restaurant with these animatronics in. It's been closed down. They're wanting to reopen. This guy offers to fix his car if he goes in and tidies up this place overnight. We find out the reasoning behind that as we go through the movie, but there's a very famous line from another movie where they say, he's not stuck in there with them, they're stuck in there with him. And that sums the entire movie up. I miss Nicolas Cage's voice. He doesn't speak one word in this. And having looked into it, Nicolas Cage is a big fan of the silent horror movie, and he's always wanted to play a horror character that doesn't speak, and here he has it. Although I would say he's not a horror character, he's awesome. And it's not a silent movie, there everyone else speaks, but only Nicolas Cage could get away with this. I enjoyed this because of it was him. And there's a glorious scene in it where he does this little dancey thing, and he's so straight for the rest of it. I just loved it. All I will come away with this, apart from having really enjoyed it, what I would give to be a pinball machine after having watched that movie. But warning, if you're not a Cage fan, you might not get a lot from it, but I personally loved it. And finally, I watched this one in bed last night, which is why I haven't rated it. Let's fix that. Now, I was almost going to give up on this movie not long into it. So this is a movie about a chef. He's very pretentious. He has his own TV programme. He's not well liked by a lot of people. Now we have also a food critic who's also a bit of a twat, it has to be said. And he gives reviews of all different restaurants, but he seems to crave giving terrible reviews to everyone. And this guy takes his talent very seriously. So when he gets this review from this critic, all hell breaks loose. We get the backstory, not backstory, we get a bit of backstory on each character to give you an idea. And it has to be said, you start off hating both of them. Long story short, this is kind of a torture porn movie. It's not OTT, it's not Hostel, it's not that bad. But this chef kidnaps this critic. I'm not giving spoilers, it says this. The tagline is, a celebrity chef exacts revenge on a food blogger who torpedoes his career. So he kidnaps him, and I'm not going to tell you anymore. It made me laugh in places. I don't think it was meant to, but it did make me laugh in places. The only thing I would say about this is the way they chose to end this. I think I've switched off. I think my screen recorder switched off. Let's just leave it because that was the last film. Film. I love that John from Mondo Chilovic says film. I'm not the only one. So many people have said to me, Lisa, it's not film, it's film. It's not F-I-L-I-M, it's F-I-L-M, film. Film. John from Mondo Chilovic says so, so do I. It's film, and it shall continue to be. I'm waffling. The end scene of this movie is lazy, is silly, is disappointing. Up until that point, I was enjoying it. The first 5-10 minutes, I thought, oh Jesus, this is going to be bad. Because the guy that is the chef in this, initially his acting appears to be terrible, but if you stick with it, it does improve. As I say, I did like it. I liked what happened when he was kidnapped, but maybe it's a personal viewpoint, but the last scene and what happens at the end, how we culminate, was just lazy. It was just silly. But I'd still recommend it. It's worth a watch. So that is it for this week of what I've watched, folks. Let me know if there's anything you've watched. Oh, I watched The White Tiger last night. I haven't even added that yet. It's on Netflix. I should be telling you where these are. That last one, Bitter Feast, is on Shudder, I believe. I watched it through Amazon Prime. Digging Up the Marrows on Shudder. Willy's Wonderland's on Amazon Prime, but you need to pay for that at the minute. Red Dot's on Netflix. The Rental is on Amazon Prime, I believe. I think I told you about the rest. White Tiger on Netflix last night. Fantastic. Thoroughly recommend White Tiger. It's half of it's subtitled. Am I going to tell you the wrong language? I'm not even going to try. It's set in India. Don't pick the language, Lisa, because you'll get it wrong. I was going to say Urdu, but that's wrong. But there's a lot of it English, and it follows a young man from a very poor area, from a poor caste in India, to his climbing up through the ranks, shall we say. I'll not say any more, but really, really good film, well worth a watch. Not what I was expecting whatsoever. Yeah, I don't want to say any more. So, is there anything else at the minute that you would recommend for me to check out? Especially Hidden Gems on Shudder. I have seen most of Shudder, it's ridiculous. But is there any that's sort of lesser known that you would recommend on there for me? Check out my Letterboxd account. I always link it below, and you can see everything I've watched. So you can see if I've watched whatever your recommendation is. I would love to talk to you in the comments. Thank you for watching. I shall speak to you next time on Lisa Lives.